to my dog. But not to you, because you realize there are things in this room that you cannot see with the human eye. They're just not visible to you. They're light waves that are so short you can't see them. The dog couldn't see them. That little black box picks them up. You realize, don't you, the King of the universe said, Randy, I'll never abandon you. I'll never forsake you. I'll never leave you. You'll never be alone. You'll never be an orphan. When he's talking to the disciples in John chapter 14, he uses a Greek word that I love the Greek word. And again, it has all kinds of implications. But he said, I'm going to give you the parakletos. You don't need to know that. It's not on heaven's entrance exam, I promise. But the disciples would have understood something. A parakletos had different meanings, but let me tell you one of the meanings it had. Let's picture a small Jewish town with an old lady Brown. And old lady Brown is ill, and she lives in a house that wouldn't have been, quite frankly, it wouldn't have been as big as from that wall to here. That's her house. That would have been common. And if old lady Brown is sick, there are no hospitals, there are no nursing homes, there's nothing in those days like that. They didn't have them. So who took care of old lady Brown? Well, family did. Well, what if she has no family? Or what if they're not willing to? It was common. Joe walks into a coffee shop, and the guys are saying something along the line, how's your week? And Joe said, well, my wife left me, and they'll start teasing him and joking with him because old men tell the same old stupid jokes everywhere and going, we always thought she should have. And then somebody said, actually, where is your wife? Did you go visit the kids? And Joe could make that room go quiet and tender when he said this, no, my wife, she became the parakletos for old lady Brown. That means she picked up her mat, she went to old lady Brown's house, she laid her mat beside old lady Brown's bed, and she said, I'm not leaving you till you either get well or go home to the Lord. And Jesus says, I'm going back to the Father, but you won't be left alone. I'm giving you the parakletos. You will never, ever be alone. So there's a sense in which if I'm going to live a wise life, I've got to wake up in the morning and go, God, there's not one moment today that I will not be in your presence. And so at the end of the day, did I live a wise man's life? Part of it is that I honestly share the day with the Lord. Not enough to believe in the Lord. You share the day with the Lord. Number one. Number two, you need a handful of godly friends who know everything about you. I grew up in a ranch and a farm background. I grew up John Wayne-y kind of things, John Wayne kind of stuff, where you're very kind to people, you're civil to people, you nod your head, and you have lots of broad friends, but you carry your own weight. You're your own guy. Not that I didn't like people, but I realized that I had 100 closest friends. Does that tell you something? What it meant was, it was easy for me to move in and move out. But I read through the scriptures, and I don't care if you're Elijah the prophet, who can call down fire from heaven and raise the dead, who can take on the 400 prophets of Baal. If you don't have a handful of godly friends who share life with you, you'll be off on the mountain weeping and going, God, take my life because And you begin to walk through there's so much. I'm not going to stay on this one much. But I realize that every single day I'm squandering it. I can't go spend time with all day with my handful of close godly friends. But if every single day I'm not investing a little bit, so the text, the phone call, the checking on, the how are you doing, if I don't do something like that, then all I'm doing is living with a larger crowd of friends. And God does his best work through the people in our life. I've been a little tender this last week because I think it's not last week, but it's been very close. It's very, very short, about 3 old friends I've done the funeral for. And I've been sitting with the families of those friends. So I have my own story, and all of them are sitting at kitchen tables weeping as they tell stories of who were in their life and shaped them. Charles Kent's funeral was the last one. man of God, a giant of God. And Ann is sitting there telling about Glenn, who helped shape his life, and a little couple out at the Mojave Desert who invited them in and shaped them. Well, then I'm sitting and talking, and none of us are strong enough to be shaped by God without intentionally opening places for a small handful of godly friends who know everything. So if I'm going to do the day, you can't go hang out with your friends all the time. I get that. But every single day, am I doing something to advance the ball in a small handful of godly friends? So you check a little on this one today, and that one you check on tomorrow, and that kind of thing. Number 3, joyfully and faithfully live out your role in your family. I don't know why God chose the DNA of a family, but he did. And here's one of the most painful things in life. You can't do everything your family wants. You can't do everything you would like to do for your family. We all have dysfunctional families at some point in time. My father's side of the family is a 3-ring circus, I promise you. Bring me your family and I'll raise you one. You know, that kind of thing. On a serious note, it just was. So when I look at my dad's side of the family, there were things I would love to have done, but they were just limitations. Everybody has a little of that. But here's what I do know. God never goes, hey, you have such a dysfunctional family, you're not going to react in any way to family at all. Just run everything from family. That's just not true. Biblically, from whether I look at Malachi or whether I go to where he talks about choosing leaders in the church, he says, I won't even listen to your... So at some point in time, every single day, I need to pray and ask this, God, is there some way to advance the ball in ways I ought to in my family? You can't do everything, but is there some way to advance it? So every single day, I want to share the day with you. Every single day, I want to invest a little bit in a handful of godly friends who know everything about me. And when I say everything about me, I'm going back to the previous one, by the way. If I wasn't as classy as I should have been in a staff meeting, somebody who's a close friend of mine needs to hear my confession, that kind of an idea. Number 3, go take care of family best you can, doing what you can where you are. Number 4, and again, I don't know anything magic about the order. In fact, don't you think I have an order. Number 1 is number 1. All the rest of them, they're all essential. And if you start thinking this one is way down here and this one's up here, you can't prioritize essential things. What's more important, oxygen or potassium? Well, that's a dumb question. By volume, you need more oxygen. But without potassium, your brain won't work and your heart won't beat. So which is more important? Yes. I mean, that's your only answer, okay? So on these, don't get bent out of shape when I come down and say the 4th one. Well, that should be number 2. No, they all matter. They're all part. But number 4 is pick up the towel and the basin and advance the cause of Christ where it's not. You remember Jesus takes the towel and the basin of water and washes his disciples' feet. And he said, what you've seen me do, you go do. The kingdom of God is advanced by servanthood. My whole life, I've been on a stage. I've preached at a lot of places. I know what spotlights look like on somebody. God never said the kingdom of God will be advanced with smoke machines and fog machines and lights on a stage. I'm not opposed. God can use all kinds of stuff. But here's what I do know. Those are secondary. So did you advance the cause of Christ somewhere? Did you look after people? Did you take the gospel to places where it's not? And so every single day when you get up and say, good morning, Lord, I want to share the day, there's a way of breathing in and breathing out. I want to share the day with you. I want to have a handful of godly friends I invest a little bit in. I want to serve my family best I can in ways that I can. I want to take the towel and basin, advance the cause of Christ where it's not. So every day let me serve somewhere. Number 5. Number 5 is work hard. The book of Proverbs says that the fool struggles with diligence. And the wise man has a work ethic. I would have said that I would have never been lazy in my life. Now stay with me a second. I know that may sound arrogant, but I would have always assumed that I would have never been lazy. I grew up, from the time I was a little boy, we were a family of some poverty, and Dad needed somebody on the tractor. I couldn't even reach the clutch. I couldn't reach the brakes. All I could reach was the key to turn it off if something needs to happen. I'm in a man's world from the time I'm a little bitty boy. I grew up in sale barns. My dad was the premier livestock auctioneer in this part of the country. So I grew up in sale barns, back with the vet and all of that. Work ethic was kind of manhood for me. I caught myself lazy in ministry. Now, time out. You wouldn't have known it. Here's why. There's 30 things that are ministry. Go write sermons. Go make hospital calls. Go check on widows. Run by the church camp. There were things I needed to do I didn't want to do, so I would go do the thing in ministry I wanted to do, not the things I ought to do. And I could hear the conviction of the Lord going, Randy, go set your butt in a chair and finish what you need to finish before you get up and go do that thing. You would have said, man, Randy's really hard working in the ministry, and the Lord would say, no, he's using me. He's using ministry against me. He's hiding in ministry. You would have applauded it, and the Lord would have shook his head. So at some point in time, you got to realize sweat is spiritual. God works, and he invites you to work. And you're not getting away with anything if you never find any diligence in your life. So one of the questions at the end of the day is, did I actually have the discipline to work hard at something today like I should have? Or did I spend all day kind of avoiding stuff? Number 6, I don't even know where I'm at. By the way, when I rewrote it every month, I changed the order every time I wrote it, except for number 1. Number 1 always stays number 1. The rest of them always change the order. Number 6, rest. What? You've got to step back and wonder at a God who said, you are my children, and I want you to take one day every week, and I want you to rest. Because life doesn't depend on you, it depends on me. I'm on the throne, you can go to sleep, I'll be fine. If you've ever seen terrified kids that won't go to bed at night because they're afraid they have to watch and see what could go wrong, you want to know kids that have a little bit of peace, they're willing to go to bed because somebody else is watching. God said, you're my child, you can go to bed and go get some rest. I'll watch. Rest is a part of how God made you. It just is. I don't know why he didn't design us so that we could hot sink for 20 minutes at night, good for 23 hours and 40 minutes the next day, but he didn't. Rest. He says, I give to my beloved rest. Part of just wisdom is go serve Jesus, go take a nap. I mean that. Jesus turns to the disciples in Mark 6:31. I joke about it, but if you want a tattoo, it's not a bad one. I'm joking. Mark 6:31. Jesus turns to the disciples and said, let's go off to a deserted place and pray. No, he didn't say that. Let's go off to a deserted place and work. No, he didn't say that. Let's go to a deserted place and, well, all of those sound more spiritual. No, this is incredibly spiritual by Jesus. Go off to a deserted place and rest. Rest is required. Without enough rest, you can't care about what you care about. You may care about things at a level 5, but if you don't get enough rest, you can only carry it at a level 3. You can't withstand the hard blows of life without enough rest. Go get some rest. Anybody who said, well, I have just too much to do, I just not time enough to rest. Whether you like it or not, you're saying, God, my world's not ordered enough by you. I got to manage my own life. Number 7, solitude. Solitude. God uses solitude everywhere in the discipleship as he raises up people. Always. If he's going to change Abraham from being somebody who's probably semi-pagan from the city of Ur. He takes him off in the desert pretty well by himself. If God's going to change Moses' life, what's he do? He uses solitude. Joseph's life, he uses a lot of solitude. David's life, David, I'm going to make you king, but David, you're going to spend several years off in the desert by yourself. King Saul's chasing you. Your family can't be with you. I need you in solitude. Elijah, the most powerful prophet, you're going to start off in a valley by yourself with only the ravens. If you cannot live in solitude well, I promise you, you've never learned to hear the voice of God very well. You don't even know what you think. I'm not a poster child for any of this. I don't want to present myself as that. But I don't know even how much everybody around me would have known it. But at 2:30 most every afternoon, I had a standing appointment, 2:30, 3 o'clock. It was always in my calendar. And it was across the road at the cross-country track of Missouri Southern. Sometimes I walked it in my suit. Sometimes I walked it. But I want to go walk because the phone is ringing 7,000 times. There's appointments. There's marriages falling apart. Life has happened. But God, if I don't have a bit of solitude, I can't hear your voice. God's voice is always a quieter voice than you expect, and you can't hear it in the craziness of life. Not that God can't break through, but that's not his normal pattern. And so about every day, I want to have a little period of solitude. I'm 71 right now. Can I tell you my favorite time of the day? I walk about 4 miles a day is my routine. I'm aimed for 5 days a week. 1 day a week, I try to do more. But everybody's asking me, Randy, what podcast are you listening to? Randy, what have you got that you really listen to a lot? I'll listen twice a week to something. And there's great stuff out there, and I feel bad there's podcasts that I should be listening to. But here's the deal. If I trade that podcast in for solitude, I don't think I like where this goes. Solitude is required. By the way, some of you go, well, man, this is wonderful, Randy. I got 4 little kids, and they're this and that, and you're telling me about going off for a walk, and that's really wonderful. Charles Wesley had a number of children, I think 37 or something. I don't know exactly what he had. I'm joking, but his wife had little kids constantly. And when he talks about his wife, every day she had a chair in the kitchen, and she would take her apron and pull it over her head. And when she pulled the apron over her head, the kids knew it was her time of solitude, and it was her time of both prayer. By the way, when you travel with the Lord, I think it is like traveling. Many of you know this with a spouse. Julie and I have been married 50 years. Our 50 years on January the 3rd. We've traveled a lot of miles together. Some of that we talk like jaybirds when we're driving down the road, and some of it we'll go through 3 states and didn't say 2 words. Why? We're just together, and that's enough. Your sharing time with the Lord will have prayer in it, but a lot of it is just with the Lord. Solitude is really important. I highly recommend it. Number 8. Number 8, I'm going to throw you a curveball. Actually, my number 8 and my number 10 will throw you a curveball. Number 8 is a stewardship of your own physical body. You realize, don't you? I mean, if I take you to the Psalms, you're fearfully and wonderfully made. You realize the body God gave you is not your permanent one. It's a loaner. You get a permanent one in heaven. But this loner body you have, even in a broken world, and everybody's body's got something that's got a little limp to it. I mean, everybody's does. But the body you have, and I'm using a metaphor, but it's the horse your soul and spirit will ride the rest of your life. I realized years ago that if I'm going to love my wife in her old age, Randy, you got a stewardship of your body so that you're able to love your wife and love your grandkids and your great-grandkids. And Randy, if you're going to be in this for the long haul, I need you to do some stewardship of what I entrusted to you. The body itself is not to be overly glorified, but neither is the body to be abused. I can't fully explain it. I don't fully understand it. But you live out of control physically, and it deeply affects you emotionally. And so part of what you do in an act of worship, and the reason I go for the 4-mile walk, is it's solitude I get to put together, it's shared time with the Lord, and it's also a discipline of my body. It has something to do with God. I believe you have long-term plans, and I want to be a part of them. So I would tell you, you have an act of worship, you have an act of wisdom to say, I want to steward it well. You can't do everything. I've had the cancer. I mean, many of you, Jerry's sitting here fighting through, and the last chemo, and all those sort of things. There are many things we don't get control about this. But I think one of the haunting questions is, Randy, were you wise enough to discipline and control what you could have done? Number 9, a stewardship of everything that you own. You don't own anything. It's loaned to you. I know this is a silly illustration, but if I take this, hey, Bo, and I toss that to Bo, and I say, Bo, would you watch that for me? Can I tell you, Bo would watch that more carefully because it's mine than he would watch his own stuff. Everything, give that back here, by the way. You realize you don't own anything. You manage things. Now, the Lord wants you to enjoy them. Very much so enjoy them. Got myself all tangled up here. Very much enjoy them. But I want you to steward on my behalf. I'm going to say some off-the-wall things here, so cut me some slack. Give me about 2 minutes of really weird stuff for you, okay? A week ago was the anniversary of some death of some missionaries that occurred back in the 1950s down in South America. Jim Elliott and some others, they were killed by the Auca Indians. Elizabeth Elliott is the widow of one of those. There are few women that I've ever been around that have the wisdom. In fact, I want to make sure they're very clear. Few men I've ever been around either that has the wisdom of Elizabeth Elliott. She's just one of the phenomenal women of my time. She's one of the grand dames of our era. I happen to be in a room probably not this big, maybe about this size, and Elizabeth Elliott spoke to us. Now hear me. This is off the wall. She made this statement: "Don't tell me you love Jesus if you don't clean under your bed." No, wait a second. Is Elizabeth, are you losing it? Hang on here a second. What? And she had a twinkle in her eye, but she followed it up with this. She said there was a teacher one time who said, if you can't be faithful with physical things, worldly things, who can trust you with eternal things? Quoting Jesus. Meaning what? Chaos won't stay where you put it. You live in chaos in your life, it is like a cancer. It won't stay where it is. So you say, well, it's just my car that looks like a hoarder's car. I just have all the sacks in it. I have all the papers, but it's just my car. Can I tell you, chaos won't stay where you put it. It will begin to spill. And I'm talking emotionally, and it just begins to take your life. And you have become undisciplined enough that it's hard for the Lord to use you. So what does that mean? Here's what it means. When you get up in the morning, make your bed. Make your bed. Why? It's a part of my stewardship for the Lord. Brush your teeth. You go, that's stupid. Brushing my teeth in the eternal scheme of things. I live in the grand eternal scheme of things, but I also say, God, I want you to be able to trust me with eternal things, and so you can trust me with physical things. And so I would tell you, clean your car and make your bed. And hang your clothes up. Am I telling you to become OCD on these things? No, I'm not saying that. All of us have the ox in the ditch on occasions, and it is as it is. But you don't want to live with the ox in the ditch. Stop tethering the ox in the ditch. So that anytime you look, the ox is always in the ditch. So part of your act of worship is I'm going to go clean my room. Part of your act of worship is I'm going to go change the oil on the car. It's just discipline. Number 10. Number 10 is creativity. Creativity. Meaning what? You have a creative God. God's incredibly creative. You know that throughout Scripture. And when He created you, He tore off a bit of His creative nature and gave you some of it. For some of you, it's fine arts. I mean, you love the music, and you love the painting, and you love the dance. But creativity is far more than that. Creativity. My dad passed away at 92, almost 93. And my dad is down at the barn breaking colts in a little small pen. Why is this 92-year-old man still working with blue roan colts, breaking them? Because it's part of my dad's creativity. I think of Stan Woolenhouse loving books, his creativity. For some of you, it's like my wife, I joke about it. Every plant outside our house needs a passport because my wife moves it every year. It'll be better over here this next year, and she's here. She loves it. It's part of her creative nature. It's what she does. Some of you are trying to figure if that old lawnmower motor that's been I wonder if I can make that run right. Part of God's creative nature passed on to you is, do you know what a joy and delight at the Father is when you live out your creativity? And that creativity will bless you and bless Him and bless others. Well, somebody will say, and by the way, I'm going to start wrapping this together here. Somebody will say, man, I haven't had enough time for creativity. Well, then I guarantee you, then I know you haven't had enough time for solitude. I also know, and we could begin to run through these things, they're just tied together. And so what I did is I would put on my desk, Randy, this is how you want to breathe in. Now, could I do anything and everything? No, not in any one day. Best way I'm going to describe them, and I'm going to come down here, and if I walk out of the camera, so be it. These are kind of like 10 little ducklings you look after. You just kind of best you can, these 10 little ducklings. And everybody's going to look up and go, whoa, I left one or two of these behind. You didn't leave them behind, you left you behind, and you're becoming more of a cartoon character. You're living less wisdom. And so you're constantly going, all right, I need to go back and pick that up and do a little with that. And you just kind of want to nurture these little things along. And so I stand here, my next birthday, I'll be 72. I would tell you this little simple plan, it's not much, but this simple little plan is the best way I understood how a man of wisdom would live from the book of Proverbs. And it's the way I want to try to do it best I can. One last thing I'll throw out here. There's probably two major reasons that you don't do these 10. Number one is I can almost guarantee you grew up in a family that didn't. None of us did. And so you haven't seen it. It wasn't valued. Maybe your family told you never let anybody else know your business. So you never got a handful of close godly friends who knew everything about you. Or maybe you were in a family that all you do is work. You never rest. Or maybe you were in a family that knew how to maybe so-called rest. It wasn't a good rest, I promise, but never learned how to work. Every family, I said to somebody this last week, every generation has to clean out their parents' house. I just said a metaphor there. Every generation has to clean out their parents' house. Don't do what your family did. Clean it out and do it better. But here's the real reason I think we don't do it. We tend to gravitate to what we're good at, and we tend to avoid what we're not good at. I wasn't a great athlete, but I wasn't a bad athlete. And the secret to me being a decent athlete was I lived in a small enough town I could be one. I wouldn't be one in a big town. But when I lifted weights or when I did anything like high school football boys, and I was a pole vaulter and some other stuff, when I would go lift weights, my strength was my chest. I don't weigh much. I didn't at that time. I do now, but at that time, I could bench press with the big boys, and they would ooh and ah. at my bench pressing. I quarterbacked a little bit, but I couldn't have thrown and broke those back. I could not throw a ball very far. I was very accurate, but I had no strength. That actually comes from right in here. I was weak there. So when I went to the gym, what I should have done is gone over with the 8th grade girls and done this, okay? But no, I don't want to do that because that's kind of embarrassing. I want to go where I get my kudos, and so I kept doing bench press because I was fairly decent at it, and I avoided this. And I tell you, there's a very good chance you've gravitated to what you're good at, and you've avoided what you're not good at, and you've become more and more a cartoon character. And so part of this is just simply saying, God, I want to be a whole person, not a partial one. I want to live with wisdom. I would tell you to tear apart the book of Proverbs. You find what you think you see in it. Let the Holy Spirit lead you. But I would encourage you to begin to breathe in and breathe out with some clarity. This is how I want to live. God bless.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you so much. So, Proverbs. How many Proverbs are there? 31. How many days are there usually in the month? 31. Let's do it. Let's do it this year. Let's read a proverb a day. And let's apply it to our lives. So we're going to, first of all, I want to thank First Church for hosting us today. Yes. And I want to thank One Church. Isn't that cool? First Church and One Church. One Church for being our food group tonight. So thank you. Thank you to those guys. And so we're going to take some prayer requests. And the way we do that is